So I'm getting pretty close to being able to fire this thing up. Maybe I should say attempt to fire it up. But I had to take the distributor out and drain the oil because of that leak from the intake manifold that caused me to have to redo all of that. The intake manifold and drain the oil, and so I was going to put oil in it, and I decided that I've only got this valve cover, actually both valve covers, on with 2 bolts, and the reason is I've got these wire looms that need to go on there, so before I try pouring oil in, which has to go in through the valve cover, I want to make sure that's bolted down tight so that I don't have any leaks. And then that led me to, well, if I'm going to do that, I need to put the wires on. And then that led me to, well, if I'm going to put the wires on, I guess it's time to reinsert the distributor. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I double checked, and my timing pointer is at top dead center, which is where it was when I originally put the distributor in. And I haven't moved it, so I should be able to just insert the distributor the way it was. Now that might be the challenge. So I'm going to take off the air cleaner and the distributor hold down bolt off camera and move those wires out of the way and get the distributor and be ready to attempt to put that in the proper place. Okay, I've taken all that stuff off and applied a generous amount of the break-in lube to the distributor, and here's what I'm shooting for installing it. When we use their tool to make a mark for where cylinder number 1 was on the distributor, so that when we put the spark plug wires on, we put them on in the correct place. That's it right there. Now, when I pulled this out, I know basically where number 1 was, and this gear down here is attached to the rotor. So if I put the rotor a little bit counterclockwise from where I want it to end up, because as that gear goes into the meshes with the gear on the camshaft, it's going to spin that rotor clockwise. So if I thought this through properly, I may be able to insert this and get it in and line it up with the oil pump rod, hopefully first time. So here goes. This is about where I think it had to go. I've got my gasket for the bottom of the distributor on there. Okay. Now, I meshed up with everything correctly here. I think. Or do I need to use that tool again? Let me try the tool. I may not be on the oil pump shaft properly, but I think I've got it in the right direction in terms of where I want number one to be. So that did line up. You can't quite see it from here, but take my word for it, the mark on the distributor body is in line with the rotor. But here's the thing, it's been a month or two since I took this out, and maybe I'm one tooth off. Maybe this should be just a little bit further this way, and that's why it's not lining up with the oil pump shaft. So I'm going to take this off, and I'm going to try to move that one tooth and see if it drops in there. If it does, then I'll know that I actually put it back in the same place that it was. That's still not matching up with the oil pump. Now, I don't want to do this, so I'm going to do it the old school way, but someone pointed out on one of my other videos that once you get it in here the way you need it, you can turn the engine over, and when that oil pump shaft lines up with the distributor shaft, it'll just drop right in. And I believe that, but for some reason I just don't want to do it that way. So I'm going to take this out and see if I can line the oil pump up manually, the rod. And go from there. And you can use a large screwdriver, but since I have the actual tool for turning the oil pump, I'm going to use that. So I'm going to drop this in. Okay, that's engaged. Let's see if I can determine which way it's pointing. Which way I have to turn it. I'm sure this is going to take me longer than if I just turn the engine over and let it drop, but I guess I'm a stubborn old man. That went in, but I'm further over than I want to be. I want a tooth off. So I want it more like that. So that would tell me, since that dropped in, I need to turn it counterclockwise about a tooth. However far a tooth is. Let's go with there. Not all the way in. I didn't have it all the way in before, so I really didn't turn it a tooth. That's my guess for a tooth again. That's about where I want the thing to be. I'm seriously debating whether I want to try it by turning the engine, but that could screw up my top dead center. And I'm not sure I want to go that way. Question is, did I turn it too far or not far enough? I'll tell you what, this tool for turning the oil pump really makes moving that rod easier than trying to do it with a screwdriver, because I've done that in the past and it's hard to get in there and know where you're at. you still have the difficulty of lining it up so that it drops in. See if I can look down there and see approximately which way that shaft is pointing. It's pointing like that. Try that. Always makes me wonder a bit whenever I'm trying to insert these distributors, because you're looking at one way and then you're looking at the other, you know, upside down in comparison to it. Okay, I am going to shut off the camera instead of wasting your time and fiddle this with this until I get it to drop. Because you've seen what the process is. It's just a matter of finding out where exactly it has to be. Okay, that actually took me 3 stabs total to get it where I wanted. I actually got it in and lined up, and the distributor dropped all the way in 2 stabs, but it was off by a little bit. I was pointing this way and I didn't want that, so now I'm taking their tool again and putting it on here. And there is the proper alignment. The tool dropped in and locked. So now I will take the distributor hold down clamp and put it in there and tighten it down in that position. Dang it, I should have brought my distributor wrench from up at the house. I didn't. Makes it easier to reach around the distributor. Put that plastic cap back on, make sure it's still lined up correctly before I put any pressure on this bolt. Because I do want it to be perfectly in time whenever I end up trying to fire it up. I believe that's a 9/16 head on that bolt. Okay, that is not going to go anywhere easily anyway. Do want to just try to get this a little bit tighter. Again, we're working with an aluminum intake manifold here, so we don't want to be acting like Hercules. I want to get it tight, not stripped. Okay, I'm gonna shut off the camera for a bit and try a different wrench on that, see if I can get it a little bit better grip on the head. But for the most part, that part of the job's done. So my ratcheting wrench with the flex head got in there pretty well and allowed me to turn it. Now I'm going to take off well, there's a couple wires I need to connect. And I need to take off that plastic cap and put the real distributor cap on. Have to save that plastic cap for if this goes on only one way. Apparently it does. So we'll get those screws. Tighten down the cap. another screw on the other side. I can't even see that from here, but these two screws hold down the retaining clip on the spark plug wires. So I've got to find my connections that need to be made for the distributor to actually work. There's this one. And these two purple and green ones. And the plug is such that you can't confuse them. You know what? This is the main power wire that feeds everything for the sniper, at least the trigger wires that trigger the relays. And it's a hot wire. Just a tiny bit of metal showing there. So before I go any further, I'm going to wrap that with some electrical tape so that it doesn't cause a problem down the road. I don't think it would because it's really small, but you never know. I guess maybe you didn't see that, but no, that's what I'm going to be doing. Okay, I'm going to try to thread these spark plug wire looms underneath some of the vacuum lines that apparently I connected after I took this off. Guess that wasn't the best approach. I don't have a battery in this car yet, so there's no danger of me hitting any live wires here while I'm doing this. You know what? Some of these aren't connected yet. Make it a little bit easier. Okay, that seems to be where I can run those wires once I reconnect everything. By everything, I mean the vacuum lines, etc. The one thing that's important here is here's the mark on my distributor. It indicates where cylinder number 1 is. Since I didn't take these out of this loom here, all I've got to do is put the number 1 wire there, and the rest will all line up. I will double check them, but that is the way it was planned. So there's number 1 wire, there's the number 1. The biggest trick here is getting all of these boots lined up with the terminals they have to go on. That's not that easy of a feat, but I'm gonna have to go around and check the other side because I think a couple of those are not lined up yet. And probably the toughest one to make sure is lined up is the center one, because that's from the coil to the distributor. And I can see that that's on, I can see all these are on. Go over to the other side and visually check to make sure that all the others are on. And I'll try and press that into place. Once I can press it into place, I'll be able to all the ones on this side are lined up. So, the question is, did I get all these clipped on firmly? And I'm feeling most of them go on. I should have paid more attention to which ones went on and which ones didn't, but I think they're all on. Okay. That means I can screw that loom down. That will hold them in place pretty much permanently. Till I take them off, or somebody takes them off. So, in talking to the machine shop that did my short block, this was probably last year, he told me that if this sits for a while, I should run the oil pump, turn the engine a quarter of a crank, run the oil pump, turn the engine a quarter crank. That sounded like a lot of work to me. So I guess I cheated And what I'm planning to do is, since all this new stuff, the sniper, the air conditioner, the transmission, and that is all fed off of new wiring that is directly from the battery hooked up to what's going to be the top terminals on my battery. And the original wiring is all going to be hooked up to the side terminals like it originally was. So what that means is I can just not put the top terminals on, and none of the new wiring will be in play. But my starter will be in play, and I'll be able to just turn the starter and let the oil pump work off of the engine and spread some oil about that way. And the way I came up with that plan is way back when I was a young lad. My sister had bought a '64 Chevy, and one of our neighbors who had a '57 Chevy came over one day, and I started the engine, and he said, "Oh, that oil light's on. That shouldn't be on like that." Well, it didn't take me long to figure out that because that car started in less than a turn, and he had to crank his for 20 seconds before it would fire up, that his oil light wasn't coming on because he had already rotated the engine and the oil pump enough to get oil pressure in there. So I'm going to use that lesson to help me do this a little bit easier, or a little less labor intensive. Next thing I'm going to be doing is securing the valve covers. And if you recall, when I was putting them on, I put studs in the heads so that I could just slip these things on easily. Instead of trying to put a retainer bolt, or even these quick connect ones, on there, because I have, in addition to the well, the gasket would have been under there. That would be one thing. And then the valve cover. And then the hold down. And then the wire loom. And you'd have to get the bolt through all that stuff with trying to line it up. So putting the studs into the head allows me to put the gasket on the studs, and then put the valve cover on the studs, and then put the hold downs on the studs. And I'm not dealing, especially in a case like this where I'm fighting with the brake booster. And trying to line up 4 things like that would be pretty difficult to do. So as you can see, I've got all the pieces on the studs, starting with the gasket, the valve cover, the hold downs, the wire loom, and then it's just a matter of putting this on. One more and I'll be done on this side. to trim down the wings on this one to clear the brake booster here. But so the driver's side valve cover is on it. I've got the wires onto the distributor. The wires are fed through the loom. Now all I need to do is put spark plug wires on the spark plugs. That might take me a couple minutes, but it wasn't too bad the first time. Although it wasn't in the car, I don't think. Maybe it'll be a little harder in the car. These looms make it nice because it's very easy to determine which wire goes on which plug, because they're pretty much laying there right in line. The longest one goes furthest forward, and second longest one that's there. Okay, I'll finish those other two, maybe from the bottom, maybe from the top, I don't know. But I'm not going to video the other side unless there's some major thing that I discover. But once I'm done with that, the reassembly of the sniper system, including the Hyperspark distributor, is complete again. Okay, way up in here is the number 4 spark plug. I don't think that's what you're really seeing there, but I finally found the wire. And trying to get my hand up in there to push it on firmly. And I guess it is on. These spark plug wires don't seem to want to go on with a nice click like I like to hear, but they do appear to be on. So I can see up in there at actually maybe number 6 is on further than that number 4. It's hard to tell from down here, or up there for that matter. The little bit of difference could be the difference in the boot as well. Can't really get it on the camera from here. But if I can reach it from another angle. Doesn't want to pull off, so that's good. can see 1 and 3 from here, and they look to be on about the same distance. So I think that's going to work. I'm sorry, that was 2 and 4 over there. This is 5 and 7 I'm after on the driver's side. So 7 went on very easily. Five has started, but doesn't seem to be all the way on. Okay, I'm going to turn that off because the camera's just getting in my way and I don't think you're seeing anything here. Okay, that is number 7 there. And in front of it is number 5. And I got both of those on. I got 4 on the passenger side. So, tough to get to, but got them on.